Hello everybody, my name is Suman Dua. I'm a registered migration agent based in Brisbane, Australia. In this video today, I will be talking about the options for 485 visa holders. So if you're somebody who's already lodged a 485 visa or have recently been granted a 485 visa and you're looking for options for permanent residency, this video is for you. So if you are in a situation where your occupation is highly competitive and it's not in your state's occupation list, or you're not falling under the critical sector and you're looking at other state options. So before you make a decision to move to another state, it's very important that you look at that state's occupation list. So far, South Australia and Tasmania have already published their occupation list for this financial year. They have also published their updated requirements for their 190 and 491 nominations. So if you have figured out that your occupation is not on your state's occupation list, or you're finding it hard to find a job in your occupation and that's the requirement of your state, then you may want to look at these options. So first, let's look at South Australia. So South Australia has recently published their occupation list and they've got more than 500 occupations on their list. They have also published their nomination requirements for 190 and 491 visa nominations if you're somebody who's planning to go to South Australia and work there to meet their nomination requirements. Even if you are a student visa holder, you may look at their nomination requirements if you have a job in South Australia, because you only need to be working 20 hours a week for 6 months to be eligible for their 491 nomination for most of their occupations. I will also quickly show you South Australia's occupation list so that you can work out what requirements you will have to meet if you're planning to move to their state. So you may want to go to South Australia's website. They have actually now got a new website as well. So if you go to the occupation list, skilled occupation list, so they have got 504 occupations at the moment which are on their state occupation list. So let's look at few occupations. Let's start with an accountant. So what do they want if you want nomination as an accountant? So you click on the details and it will tell you if the occupation is open and what the requirements are. So it says offshore, not available for offshore. So it is available for 190 and 491 both visa nominations, and they need competent English, and the minimum points required is 65 points. So in your case, if you're somebody who's moving there on the 485 visa, you will have to look at this top bit, 190 eligibility, 491 eligibility, because if you scroll down a little bit, you will see that they have a separate column just for the South Australia graduate pathway, but because you haven't studied there, so you won't meet this requirement unless you go there and study there. So in your case, if you are a 485 visa holder, in your case you will have to look at this top column. So for 190, you need to be currently working in your nominated or closely related occupation for 24 months in Greater Adelaide, or the last 12 months in outer regional South Australia. So it's outside of Adelaide. If you're working in your nominated or closely related occupation, you may qualify for 190. For 491, you need to be working in your nominated or closely related occupation for the last 12 months in South Australia. So that way you'll qualify for the 491. And it is also available through the Talent and Innovators program. So that's something I will talk about in detail in my next video, where I will be explaining you the South Australia's requirement. There are also waivers and exemptions available for applicants who are already living there and who are already working and living in the outer regional South Australia. So for some applicants who are living and working in the outer regional South Australia, they may not be working in their nominated occupation. So we will talk about this option in detail in my next video. But also note here, due to high demand for this occupation, a positive outcome is not guaranteed. So even though it is there, but I think it will depend on the quota. and how many applications they receive and how competitive those applications are. So this is for the occupation of accountant. Let's look at chef occupation as well. So for chef occupation, you click on the details and it will open two columns again. So the first is for somebody who is living and working in South Australia, and the second is for South Australia graduate pathway. So again, because we are looking at the options for 485 visa holders, you will look at the first column, currently unavailable for offshore, and who are in South Australia. They need to have competent English, minimum 65 points, and this occupation is open for both 190 and 491 visa, and it is at skill level 2 because you need a certificate 3 level or diploma level of studies in this one. For 190, you need to be working in your nominated occupation for the last 12 months. In that case, you will be eligible for the 491 nomination. But if you're working in the outer regional South Australia, maybe you're somebody who doesn't have 12 months to wait and only got about 6-7 months left on the visa, and they go there, they work there in the outer regional South Australia for 6 months, they may qualify for the 491 visa nomination. It is also available through Talent and Innovators program, and 190 nomination is only available if you're working in the outer regional South Australia. So if you're somebody who's working in the Greater Adelaide, even for 12 months, you won't be eligible for the 190 nomination. You can also apply through the Talent and Innovators program, or if you are a TSS visa holder. So there are a few different requirements for this stream as well. So we will talk about that in our next video. So there are waivers available for long-term residents. So if you've been living there for maybe 5 years or more, you will have some waivers and exemptions. Also, the applicants who are living and working in the outer regional South Australia, they will also have some exemptions and waivers. Now again, because this occupation is in high demand as well, so a positive outcome is not guaranteed. So now let's look at one more. Let's look at business analyst. So ICT business analyst. So let's see what requirements are there. Again, not available for offshore. So the minimum points requirement is 65 with competent English. And this occupation is also available for 190 and 491. So you will only look at the first column if you're a 485 visa holder. For 190, you need to be working in your nominated or closely related occupation for the last 24 months in the Greater Adelaide area, or last 12 months in outer regional South Australia. For 491, you need to be working in your nominated or closely related occupation for the last 12 months in Greater Adelaide, or the last 6 months in outer regional South Australia. It is available through Talent and Innovators program, and there are some waivers and exemptions available for applicants who are already living there from a long time or living and working in the outer regional South Australia. So let's look at one more. Let's look at hotel manager. So this occupation is also open but not available for offshore applicants. So with South Australia, they are only inviting applicants who are currently living in South Australia. So even if you are interstate, you won't be eligible for their nomination. So you actually have to move there and live there and work there as well to meet their nomination requirements. So for this occupation as well, you need 65 points and competent English. This occupation is available for both 190 and 491. So for 190, you need to be working in your nominated or closely related occupation for the last 12 months in the outer regional South Australia. And for 491, you need to be working in your nominated or closely related occupation for the last 12 months in Greater Adelaide, or 6 months in outer regional South Australia. This occupation is also available under Talent and Innovators program, and 190 nomination will only be available to applicants who are working in the outer regional South Australia. Waivers are available for long-term residents and applicants who are living and working in outer regional South Australia. So this is for South Australia, and like I mentioned before, they've got about 504 occupations available. So have a look at their occupation list and see if your occupation is there and if you can meet their requirements. You only need to be working a minimum of 20 hours a week to meet their living and working in South Australia's requirements. Another state that you may want to look at is Tasmania. So Tasmania has also published their occupation list called as Tasmanian Skilled Occupation List, TSOL, where they have got 124 occupations. So if you're on a 485 visa or about to go on a 485 visa, you will have full-time work rights. So they want you to work in your nominated occupation for 6 months to become eligible for 190 nomination, but you need to have your occupation on their TSOL list. Now I will quickly also show you Tasmanian Skilled Occupation List. So they have recently published this occupation list and they've got about 124 occupations on the list. So if you can find a job in your nominated occupation and your occupation is on the TSOL, which is the Tasmanian Occupation List, and you go there, you live there, work there for 6 months full time, which is minimum of 35 hours, you may qualify for their 190 nomination. But if you can find work in any other occupation, probably not skill level 4 or 5, so if you can go and find something related, that's what my recommendation is, but doesn't have to be closely related to your occupation. You go there, live there, work there in any occupation for 6 months full time, which is minimum of 35 hours, then you may qualify for their 491 nomination. So this is their occupation list. So there are quite a lot of occupations under the health sector, building, construction and trades, and then they have also got health and community services on their occupation list. Hospitality and accommodation occupations are also there. Engineering, manufacturing and architecture and design. So they have got still quite a lot of occupations. Agriculture is also there, but not as many as South Australia. But if your occupation is there and if you can find work in your nominated occupation in Tasmania and you have full-time work rights, Tasmania can also be a really good state for you. You may also look at the 491 category, working in Tasmania, where they want you to work for 6 months full-time in any occupation and still be eligible for their 491 nomination. In that case, you don't need to have your occupation on the TSOL list, but they will assess your application on case-to-case basis. Another state you may want to look at is Northern Territory. So if you have a job in your nominated occupation and you have full-time work rights, you go there, you work in your nominated occupation for 1 full year, you may become eligible for the 491 nomination. They also have the 190 nomination available, but for that you will have to have 2 years work experience in Northern Territory, and you also have to meet the 2 years residency requirement. So in most cases, because you only get your 485 visa for 2 years, so that may not be an option for you, but you may look at the 491 option if you do have an employer who's ready to give you employment for 12 months. The fourth state that you may want to look at is Queensland. Because your occupation does not have to be on their occupation list, so your occupation can be any occupation from the MLTSSL, STSOL or the ROL list, and if you go to Queensland, purchase an existing business in regional Queensland, invest 100,000, you will become eligible for the 491 nomination in 6 months time. We have got various videos regarding the small business owner stream in regional Queensland. We will put the link in the description. Now please keep in mind that all these options that I have discussed in this video today are for applicants who have full-time work rights and who do not wish to study again to get another skills assessment in another occupation. There are other states as well that you may want to keep an eye on, but sometimes those states keep changing their occupation list too quickly, or they are only inviting critical workers or someone with really high points. I hope this video was helpful. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us.
To stay updated about Australia's immigration, make sure that you subscribe to our channel.